This is the Freeheel Life podcast number 3. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, checking in from the Freeheel Life Shop here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And today I am joined by the wonderful Taylor Johnson, a.k.a. Telly-Tay, formerly known as Telly-Tay 88.
Yeah, I dropped the number. That used to be my hockey number. I was a big hockey player growing up, and I don't know. It got to the point where a lot of people thought I was born in 1988, which I wasn't, and I didn't like that. So just Telly-Tay now. I retired from hockey, a couple too many concussions, so trying to keep the brain cells I've still got. But yeah, here we are in the Freeheel Life Shop.
We made it. We've been trying to get this podcast thing to work for a while. The gear's been sitting here for a long time, and we're finally doing it. And just kind of, for those of you that are just kind of jumping into this thing, Tay was one of the people I wanted to have on first, and along with some of the other shop people like Ashley and people that have been here for a long time, because they've basically just been around this. We've been hanging out for like 5 years, and this is a good chance to kind of get to know them, and I think they have some pretty fun stories. And thought I'd bring Taylor on today to kind of talk about let's start with how the telemark thing started.
Okay.
And
Well,
I think that's a good place to start.
I mean, basically, the telemark thing starts, that's roots in my family, so we got to go back to the mid-'80s when my dad was ski bumming after college and working up at the Rustler Lodge at Alta, and he was kind of a ski racer, and Alta used to do this race, on Groundhog Day telemark race, and one of his coworkers who was a telly cross-country skier guy challenged him to this race. So my dad thought, well, I got some racing background, I could probably figure out this telemark stuff. So my dad had like 1 or 2 days on telly gear. This is leather boots and 3-pin bindings and 210s, and probably had like 2 or 3 days before the race, and then ended up beating his buddy in the telly race, and that was it. My dad was totally hooked on telly, and he was kind of the lone freeheeler in the family, and well, in our immediate family. My extended family, uncle was a telly skier, cross country guy, and then my dad did that kind of, ever since, and then grandfather got into it in his later in life. I think my grandfather was like in his mid 60s, like he kind of retired, and he was an alpine skier and weekend warrior, and then he was starting to ski, 4 or 5 days a week after he retired. And early one season, he was booting up one of the runs at Alta in his alpine boots, and he thought, well, this is stupid. I want to get some telly gear so I can just skin up. And so it was kind of interesting where, my dad got into it really from a challenge from his friend for a race, and then my grandpa got into it more for the access of the backcountry, but then just totally fell in love with the turn. And my grandfather is as hardcore as they come as far as telly skiers. He makes telemark turns, and he's gonna be 87 this year and still dropping knees, and can't wait to get back out on the snow. And so when I was growing up, of course, like any kid, I did a few years on alpine skis, but I wanted to ski like dad and grandpa, and so I was bugging them to get me on telly skis. And I think I was 8 years old when my dad bought me a pair of the old Garmont Telly-Dactyls. Mm-hmm. And, I don't necessarily remember making a lot of telly turns when I was real young, but, I got comfortable being on the gear, and, that was it. Like, I don't think I've done, actually, no, I have not done a single day locked down since I was 8, so that's really all I know, and I don't think I could do it. Not that I want to lock it down at all, but it's like, that just seems so foreign to me. Like, I'm so comfortable being on freeheel gear, and so it's kind of fun, to think about that whole, family vibe and that roots in telly, where it's like, my dad got into it, and then, grandfather got into it kind of for different reasons, and then, I just got into it just because I thought, those guys are my heroes and still are, and I wanted to ski like those guys. And that kind of definitely shaped me as a skier. And you know, like, I mean, I hope I got 60 some more years of skiing, and I hope I'm still dropping knees at 87 like grandpa. So that was kind of our intro into, you know, my intro into telemark skiing. And you know, I mean, I think I remember, you know, grabbing a copy of, you know, a Telemark Skier magazine back when, you know, Craig Dossey was running that stuff, you know, way back then. But I kind of wasn't really like involved in like the telemark world necessarily. Like, you know, I don't really remember, you know, I know we had a couple Powder Whore movies and, you know, Unparalleled movies and, you know, on the DVD rack laying at home. But it was like I wasn't really, didn't feel like I was in that world. But you know, we're going on, this is my 6th winter working here at the shop. And I mean, how that whole story unfolded, that was like,
that was pretty funny.
you know, that was funny. Like, so, you know, I think I can remember it was through social media that how I even, you know, figured out who you were and who the shop was. It was like, you know, someone had used the hashtag spread telemark on one of their posts. And it was like, I think it was Devin Wright. I think I followed him through, Alta posted a picture on their social media, and then I followed him. I was like, oh, sweet, a tele guy. And then he used this spread telemark hashtag. And so next time I went skiing, I just posted, oh, spread telemark. That's cool. Like, I didn't know what it was. It just sounded cool. And then I'm sitting at work one day, and I get an Instagram notification, Freeheel Life liked your photo. And I thought, what's Freeheel Life? And clicked on the profile, and it was like, oh, Telemark Shop. And, you know, it was just like 2 blocks around the corner from, you know, I was working at the time in the warehouse at a screen printing and embroidery shop where my dad works as the artist. And, you know, so I said, hey, Dad, let's go check this place out at lunch. And, you know, so we just drove, you know, 2 minutes around the corner and walked in. And you, Josh, and our friend JT Robinson were in the shop that day, and you guys kind of gave me the.
I don't remember JT.
Yeah, JT was there and you know, that was the first time meeting him, and since then that's definitely turned into a good friendship as well. But it was like, you know, at the time I was doing some kind of e-commerce and selling some stuff online, and Josh was, you know, selling used gear on eBay. And you know, I kind of looked around at his shop and thought, you could step up your game. And
I'm pretty sure you told me that my eBay page sucked, and that
was that the quote?
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember if you said it sucked. I doubt you said that, but I remember it was something to that effect because you were selling, was it Audi parts?
Yeah, I was selling Volkswagen and Audi parts online, and it was kind of cool. Like, I was basically creating the facade of that. You know, I had this big warehouse full of parts and upgrades, but you know, the reality is I was a kid on my laptop in my parents' basement and just, you know, emailing orders and stuff like that. But, you know, yeah, that whole eBay thing, it was like, okay, hey, I could start helping you with that. And, you know, next thing I know, you know, 6 years later here, I'm working full time at the shop. And,
yeah,
you know, I mean, that was my whole real intro to the telemark world that I really know it as now, is just that one little Instagram notification. You know, you just double tap that photo, and then 6 years later, here we are. That's like, you know, I've met so many cool people here at the shop and been able to get, you know, tons of people into new equipment. And I mean, I think that's been one of the funnest parts about working here at the shop, is definitely like the whole community. It's like, I mean, maybe that sounds cliche, but it's like, you know, every single day at work, I get to talk to people that are just like us, where it's, you know, we have that passion for telemark skiing in the mountains, and, you know, we want to share that with other people. And, you know, it's been really cool to, you know, see all aspects of a telemark skier, from, you know, we literally have old guys with their leather boots still and their old skinny skis, and, you know, they're just cruising around the mountains, and that's what they like to do, and that's what they know, and that's what they want to do, to, you know, 8-year-old kids that are just fired up and want to try tele because maybe the same thing, maybe their parents are doing it, or, you know, college kids that just say, oh, that seems fun, I want to try that. And, you know, it's been really fun to be able to kind of share that passion with other people.
Yeah, no, It's been cool to kind of watch the whole evolution of stuff, like with you starting here, and then yeah, kind of even from where we started. I mean, when you walked in, I mean, I think that was the funny thing when you started here. Like we joke about, like I was up front sewing hats and like literally sewing hats. I was trying to explain that to some of the new guys yesterday that I was like punching holes in leather and like hand sewing. I mean, we had so much time that like I literally just sat there and like did this. We didn't even have that much stuff. We didn't even sell telemark boots the first year.
No, we had T-shirts and used equipment and maybe a couple pairs of bindings, but that was about it. And it's been a lot of fun to see, each year where we can, grow a little bit more and add a few more things to the table. And really, it's like cool just meeting new people. I mean, there's so many telemark skiers out there, and there's always going to be that hardcore group of people that are going to continue to do it. There's new people getting into the sport, but it's been really interesting where it's definitely been tough to find gear for people. I mean, when I was growing up here, it's like, we always shopped at the Black Diamond store because they were a local company and they made a bunch of telemark products, and it's like that's probably why I skied Black Diamond bindings because they were just local. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally shifted where companies like that really aren't in the game anymore. And I think for some degree, people might think, oh, that's a negative thing that a big company like Black Diamond isn't in telemark. But to me, I don't see that as a problem at all because I see these other companies, whether it's 22 Designs or the M Equipment or whoever, that these are companies that are purely making telemark products, and like they can. There's enough tele skiers out there that they can employ people through the winter, and they can invest money back into our sport, whether it's in new product or marketing or demo programs to get new people into it. Like I think it's an awesome time in telemark where
Yeah,
we really are getting a lot of cool new gear, and like I think that excitement is there. And I think the people that are getting into it now is definitely more like for my grandfather when he was getting into that more so just for the backcountry access of it. And it was like in the late 90s it was like that's how you got into the, and well before that, but in the 90s it was like that's how you got into telemark was, or into backcountry, was through telemark skiing. And like now I think that's kind of shifted where of course there's tons of good backcountry gear for whatever method you choose, whether it's AT or splitboard or telemark. But it's like cool to see that those new people getting into it are more interested in the technique. And like I mean, that's what's fun to me about tele skiing is purely the way down. It's like I enjoy a telemark turn. Like I guess I wouldn't really care what was on my feet going up if I was in the backcountry, but it's like I want to ski the way I like to ski,
Yeah.
which is tele.
When you learned as a kid, kind of going back to that, I'm curious because I think people probably want to understand this better, and I've tried to explain this to people in the shop, but there's kind of this idea that as a kid you aren't going to know how to telly, you're not going to make telly turns, so what's the point of being on telemark skis? But I think you're one of those perfect examples, like you said, like you're on telly skis, you didn't really know any different. I mean, did you ever feel like it impeded you when you were, like your dad throws you on these telly skis and you're like, oh cool, I have like orange telly-dactyl boots and I'm cruising around. But I think that's the biggest misconception is like you start to telemark later in life. And I'm always, whenever I have seen young kids, like whether it's in the shop or out in the wild, like their parents got them into telly, it looks comfortable, to me. Like I'm always like, wow, that like looks super easy for a kid to do because they can kind of shuffle around, they don't really notice, and eventually they learn how to drop their knee, but it just seems natural. It doesn't ever look weird to me. But I'm curious, like if you even remember, because that's the thing. Like even every time we talk about this, it's like you don't even remember.
Yeah, I mean,
what it was like.
I don't know. I don't think it ever. I never felt like it was hindering me as a skier or anything. I always felt like I could ski whatever I wanted, and like, or whatever my just ability as a skier. Like, I think part of that being on freeheel gear is that we have options with our technique. It's like, of course I can make a telemark turn. I can, just stand up and make a parallel turn, or, I can waddle around easier. But, it's like my cousin Philip and I, when we were young, it's like, we were out there building jumps and, digging pit. It's like, we'd borrow grandpa's avalanche shovels and go out there and dig jumps like right underneath the lift.
Yeah, just like any kid's
gonna do that. And it was like, no, I'm, jumping cliffs and, hitting these jumps we built. And like, I mean, yeah, maybe I did a few more face plants than my cousin who ended up on alpine gear after a while. But it was like, I don't know. I don't feel like that was a hindrance at all. And, I could definitely see, now seeing some of these other kids that we've got into tele skiing via our rental program and stuff like that. It's like, a couple of these kids, like, that have rented gear for 2 or 3 seasons. It's like, they're starting to get pretty good. And it's like, maybe that first year, it's like, obviously it's not going to lie. Telemark, you definitely got to pay into that. Like, there is a learning curve, but, it's like, it's fun to see those kids learning that. And, I think, like anything, if you can learn it young, like by the time, you're in high school or you're my age or, you're your age, it's like, that's just natural. It's like second nature. And
for sure,
I don't think ever once I thought about, oh, I wish I was on alpine skis so I could keep up with my friends. Like, I mean, I just skied with them. Like,
yeah, I think people like they can, if they see it and they realize the equipment's available, like it's a lot easier for them to conceptualize like getting their kid into it. And for those of you that are out there that have never thought about getting your kids into tele, it's actually pretty easy. And there are kids telemark boots that go all the way down to size 19 in the Mondo range, which I think is like a 12 in a kid's.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it is, but yeah, and you can easily just use, regular skis, and there's a couple different bindings. I'm sure we'll do some video. We've said we would cover how to make this stuff for a long time, but
now that we just put it out there on the podcast,
it's on the podcast.
Committed to it somewhere. So. Yeah, but I think, for the kids setups, it's like, I started on that Teledactyl boot, which is a super soft, 2-buckle boot, and when I'm a little kid, I don't have any weight or muscle to like, flex some big stiff tele boot. So it was like, that was perfect for me. And I started on a Riva Z binding.
Oh, right.
So
just a cable
binding. And it was like, then I think the next setup was a 3-buckle Garmont boot and a Volley hardwire binding on some K2 kids skis. And then like, then I kind of was going through boots like every other year because I was growing like mad. But, I think we still start those kids now on a low 2-buckle, soft boot and a soft flexing cable binding so that they can, get into that telemark position a little easier. And I mean, some of the younger kids, I mean, I think we even started a 6-year-old last year maybe, and this kid was just totally fired up on telly, and it was like super fun to see. And we're like, all right, dude, you're pretty young, but like if you want a telly, we'll get you some gear. And so I think we just sent him out on a 3-pin binding because at that age, I mean,
you don't
just
really
the boot flex is going to be fine for him.
Yeah, you don't really need the cable when you get started. Huh. All right. Well, I like that.
Yeah.
I think getting into the kids thing, I think that's it's cool to hear. I think that's one of the interesting parts when people come in the shop is the fact that when they talk to you and myself, like we've literally telemarked most if not our entire lives. I mean, I didn't start till I was 14, and you started probably before that, I guess.
Yeah, I think I was 8. But my intro to telly was different because it's like I had those mentors of dad and grandfather
that's true.
It was like, your whole story is totally different. You picked up a book and said, I'm going to just learn this. And so, I mean, of course I feel blessed that I had dad and grandfather to share that passion of tele skiing with me and bring me up into it. And I definitely am grateful for that. But it's like, I think that's equally cool when, someone like you or, a lot of people that I just talking to the shop where it's just like, Nope, they just decide I want to try telemark, and they go for it. And I think that's definitely cool to me, just because maybe my perspective is different on that, but it's like, I was like indoctrinated into it, like
Like you didn't know any better.
yeah, I didn't know any better, and I still don't. Like that's what I still love it, but it's like, I think that when an individual can spark their interest, that's just a different route. But we all went through that same, like, we, like, had our nose to the grindstone. Like, we were working at it to learn it. And it's like, there's definitely a learning curve, but I think for an individual, like, for you, learning on those solo snow fields,
and those were the best.
And 215, that Europa, that was probably like way too big for you as a 14-year-old kid. It was like, I mean, you probably just suffered like for a while.
Yeah. No, those things sucked for sure. Because like, it's funny because I was thinking about it the other day, because I was looking at those because they're on the ceiling of the shop, and there's some big chips out of this side, up kind of by the front of the binding, and I forgot that. I actually remember when those came off, because I don't remember if someone told me. I feel like some old telly guy told me that the way you got good at telemark was skiing bumps. And like, because literally, like, in the 90s, like, that was like, people would say that. They'd be like, you want to be a good telly skier, you should shred the bumps. I don't know if they said shred. That might have been before shred. But anyways, it's some of those chips out of it were literally because I was trying to ski bump lines on 215s, and I remember the edges, the aluminum edges on those were like catching it and breaking and chipping it off. And so I ended up getting some other skis after that.
Yeah, but still,
it's pretty funny.
It's so different. Like, and skiing the bumps too. I mean, I grew up in a different generation. Like, I grew up in the generation where dudes were, hitting big jumps and throwing spins, and
I don't even think they had bumps when you started.
It's like, no, we don't ski bumps. Like, I'm still not good at skiing bumps. Like, I never did that. Like, we were building jumps when we were kids. We weren't thinking, oh, that's rad to go ski bumps. Like, I mean, I definitely appreciate someone that can rip a zipper line through the bumps, but it was just like, that was never my intro to the sport. And, then we talk about leather boots and 3-pin bindings. It's like, you witnessed my first day on that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, admittedly, as a fairly proficient telemark skier, my first day on a 3-pin and a leather boot and my dad's 210 Rosignol hot roots, like, that was not a good day for me. Like, I literally penguin slid down basically the entire groomer at Alta.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do remember that.
Like,
it's funny how the gear has changed that much. And I mean, now you and I talk about skiing vintage gear all the time, and we've got the smelly knee pad, which is, for those of you that haven't seen pictures of the smelly knee pad, it's basically a competition we do at the end of the season where you have like leather boots and some restrictions on the gear and length of ski that you have to have. But
yeah, we throw it back to our roots there in terms of leather boots.
But it really is different skiing. I mean, that's what's funny. You're like, oh, when I was a kid, we built jumps. I mean, to put it in perspective, like, I don't even remember when I was learning to telemark in the mid 90s. I don't actually remember ever seeing anyone do anything more than a 360. And that's crazy, because if you think about it, nobody actually grabbed their skis yet.
Yeah.
They literally just spun in the air. And like, if you could do a 360, shout out to the telly heli, I think is what we called it.
Well, I would say that
it was the telly heli. It wasn't even a 360.
I didn't call it a telly heli, but I was doing 360s, when I was 10 years old. It's like we were building jumps and, landing in. I mean, I don't know that we ever landed anything, but I was launching myself off these jumps and just blowing up into 2 foot of Alta Pow. But it's like, just looping back to the leather boot conversation, it's like, that first day that I had and really struggled with skiing on a 3-pin and a leather boot and my dad's old 210s, it was really fun for me to put that in perspective in terms of like, where our sport came from. And I mean, I just couldn't even imagine the learning curve back then, because like it definitely took me a couple days to even really figure out how to link a couple smooth turns together and
Yeah.
make it down without just being totally covered in snow. And so it's like, that's definitely fun where I feel that I understand what it was like to be a telemark skier like in the 80s, in the sense of knowing what the equipment was like, but not that learning curve. Like I had been tele skiing for like 15 or 20 years before, and I'm not that old, 15, maybe 15 years, quick math. But it's like that was totally different. And then, now to see that with two smelly knee pad belts under my in
You
my
should
closet.
you should have three, but that's a conversation for another
That's
day.
another conversation. There's some controversy there, but it's a lot of fun being able to ski that old gear, and it really puts it in perspective, like how good the new gear is, though. Like any day I go ski a 3-pin and then hop back on my NTN the next day, I think, wow, I'm the best skier alive. I can make these skis do whatever I want. Like it's amazing how much more forgiving that new equipment is. But I don't know, a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's different. Well, I'm sure we'll have to cover like more leather conversations. That'll actually be fun. We're about to initiate like 5 new people that just started working at the shop, and what we usually do is initiate them on leathers. Usually a setup similar to the Europa 99s and like a 210 or a 215 with like
long, skinny,
straight, soft leather boots.
Yeah, low cuffs. We're not talking about super comps or a solo extreme racers or anything.
We put them under. Traditionally, we put them under the lift line at Alta so that they have to ski with some pressure.
They get some good hoots and hollers from people on the
lots
lift,
of face plants,
wondering what the hell they're doing there. But
yeah. I was gonna say, so I guess kind of jump into stuff this year.
Yeah.
So you're now the shop manager.
Yes, that is my title. I have a business card. It's very official.
I know. It's pretty. It's pretty cool that we've made it this far.
Yeah, for sure.
After the first double tap and you coming in, but you went out and filmed with Mountain Grown Media. I think I got that right.
I did. Yes, I did.
So that's like a little film company that Ty Dayberry and Bevan Wade started last year, and they've got a new movie coming out December 15th online, and it's got a few showings around the world before then, called Our Family.
Our Family. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about like the whole trip. I know you went out there for a week or so last spring.
Yeah, so it was like I don't know, Ty Dayberry hit me up probably in February or something, or maybe a little earlier, but he was trying to rally some dudes to come out and ski and shoot some video for the movie in March. So I don't know, I worked out our schedules, so I ended up going out there for a week, and unfortunately we didn't get the best snow conditions that week, but we made do, and we were pretty happy with what we did there. And those group of guys, definitely Ty and Bevan, are a little more huckers, if that's the right word. They like to go big. I mean, Ty's got a couple big double corks on lock, and that's just not my style. Like, and Bevan is comfortable, sending 50, 60-foot cliffs, and I'm more of the, I like to jump sometimes, but like 10 feet, that's plenty big for me. Like, my goal when I went out there was just to make the best turns. So it was like, and I think that, going out there and shooting with them like that, it's like, was able to, kind of bring my style to their movies, and that was a lot of fun. It was like, we went out and did some, sled access backcountry skiing that first day, and it was like really the only day we had sun, so we definitely took advantage of the light. But that was my first intro to like a sled access backcountry. I mean, that was wild. It was like, I didn't really know how fast those things go. I mean, it's like Ty's. I'm like riding, side saddle with Ty. Like, we're both standing on one side of the sled, holding on to the grips, and he's zipping like 45 miles an hour out on these roads,
like no big deal,
like just no problem. I'm like terrified. And then we got to the zone. That was a pretty cool, like, big bowl that had, I don't know, probably 270 degrees worth of faces and lines. And there was like a pretty big saddle, like maybe, 75% of the way up to the peak at this bowl. And it's like, so we, hop on the sled, he'd zip you up there, you jump off, get your skis, boot pack up. And, we skied like 8 or 10 lines in a couple hours. And it's like, if I had to skin that, it would have taken 2 days. It would take 2 days to hike out there, and then 2 hours to ski a 30-second line on all that hiking. So it was like definitely interesting, and so super stoked for you guys to check that out. I was pretty happy with some of the shots I got, and a lot of fun to see them doing that, and firing up the tele community with some new media and stuff like that. But yeah, that was definitely a lot of fun to get the whole Tahoe experience. Like, that was my first time skiing out there, and we skied a couple days at Ty's home resort at Sierra, and that was super
that
cool
place is
too.
awesome.
Like, just unbelievable. Like, just the biggest trees I've ever seen.
Yeah, those trees are fun to ski.
Epic tree skiing, and they kind of had a whole zone that was kind of just off a gate off the top of one of the lifts, and we were basically
I think I know.
Yeah,
do you remember what it's called?
Huckleberry.
Yeah,
Huckleberry
I know what Huckleberry
Ridge
is.
or whatever. But that was super fun. Like, nobody out there, and it was like Ty Dayberry, Bevan, Wade, Tim Shepard, myself, Megan, Kelly. We were stacking shots. So stoked to share all that with everybody here shortly.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely. I think we're trying to figure out somehow how to show it here in Salt Lake. So stay tuned for that. We're blowing through this fast.
I guess it is flying by. It's easy to talk to you.
Yeah, this is good. And this also makes me realize that we need like 1,000 podcasts that cover.
We can talk.
We could talk for a long time.
We do talk a lot, I like but now we can talk into the mic.
I like before we started, I was like, well, I don't know, like, we should probably talk about this, and then we just like turn it on. Next thing you know, we're just like blah 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 for like 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I think we should probably wrap it up for today. But I think this is a good intro. Like I've said in the past couple podcasts, I'm not really trying to format stuff in the sense of like a guest every time. And I think that'll be good. This is a good one because I think it's cool talking to Tay. We have conversations. We've had like 5 years of conversations in the shop, and I think there's a lot for us to share with you guys. And hopefully some of it's interesting and maybe spurs some more ideas that we can talk about in the future. But also it's cool to kind of hear that story again on my end, just because I think that's the most interesting part about talking to other telemark skiers is kind of the similarities that we all share, the passion. All of us have like this cool origin story about how we got into tele and how long we've done it and what kind of styles we like, and even like how you're just talking about you want to make the perfect turn when you go out with these other guys, and I think that's so cool. So we'll tell people, if they're not, where can they find you online? Because I don't know how much you post on any of your stuff anymore, because sometimes I forget.
Well, it's my social media feeds sometimes go dormant during the summer because I only like to post skiing pictures.
Because you're only golfing all summer.
Yeah, and you guys don't care about that. You guys want to see the skiing.
Everyone hates on the golf.
I don't know.
I think there's a lot more golfers, but they seem to always hate on your golf wear.
I don't. Come on, I'm into the golf fashion, but
he looks like, if you haven't seen Tay, he looks like Tiger Woods, kind of. He dresses in like Nike golf wear.
Yeah, for sure. He's the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT. I gotta dress like the GOAT so I can play like him. But yeah, no, I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. But good summer activity for me, off season from the telemark skiing. But Instagram at Teletay. You can spell that TELETAY. Facebook page, Taylor Johnson, and I don't know, most of the other stuff you'll see all through our Freeheel Life and Telemark Skier channels. But if you want to give me a follow there at Telete on Instagram, I would be stoked to share more teleskiing with you guys. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Josh. This is a lot of fun, and I'll be back.
Yeah, I like that it's at work because then we can literally do these whenever we want.
Yeah, totally. We got a big day at the shop following this, so yeah, we'll probably, I guess, wrap it up, and
we gotta go have a meeting with Ashley now so she can keep us all in check. So one of these days we'll get her on. You guys will like Ashley.
Meet the brains behind the idea people up here.
So on that note, we're finally getting dialed on our mailing list and bringing weekly content to you guys for Telemark Skier Magazine and Freeheel Life Shop. And the easiest way to sign up for the mailing list, if you go to our Instagram accounts, the links are in the bios right now, or you can easily go to freeheellife.com and sign up for the mailing list there, or stop by the shop if you're in Salt Lake.
Yeah, go to the website. It's probably easier.
Yeah,
we may change the link in bio.
Yeah,
on
that's
the
a good
Instagram
point.
regularly, but
That's
yeah, website. And if you just scroll all the way down, either you might get a pop-up window, or you're just gonna see that little like add to our list right at the very bottom of the homepage. But stay all up to date on everything happening in the telemark world. And yeah.
I also got an email set up for the podcast, so please email me and tell us how we're doing and let me know what you guys want to hear about.
Yeah, send us some questions we could always address, do like a mailbag type episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, mailbag. I guess that is what you call it.
Yeah. Or inbox, I don't know. So it's all digital now.
It's not really a mailbag. So email podcast@freeheellife.com, and yeah, just let us know where you're from and let us know what you think about the podcast. And then feel free to subscribe, kind of help us out as we're getting this thing started, and we will be back with more in the future. So thanks for listening today.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk to you guys later.
See ya.